So let's talk about the Ryan Day thing.
What Ryan Day thing?
He's not on the hot seat.
But
there's not much difference between what a hot seat means and what Ryan Day is facing going into 2023. Because there are 3 goals at Ohio State: beat Michigan, win the Big Ten, win a national title. They're reasonable about the national title thing. If you're not, it's really hard to do. So if you're not winning a national title, it's okay, as long as you're beating Michigan and winning the Big Ten. It's 2 straight years Ryan Day hasn't beat Michigan or won the Big Ten. If they don't beat Michigan next year and they don't win the Big Ten, maybe it's not a hot seat, but I'm telling you right now, they're going to pull the trigger on Ryan Day
next year.
No,
if he doesn't beat Michigan. Yeah. After next season, if he doesn't beat Michigan or win the Big Ten, they are going to move on. I
found this amazing. Tom and I have been talking about this. There is this amazing.
Are you on board with this too? Like that's kind of insane to me.
Listen.
Why is that insane? LSU fired a coach 2 years after he won a national title. This is Ohio State.
Okay, if Ryan Day decides he wants to go have some public embarrassments and go 5-7, then that's a little bit different, right?
But there are 3 goals at Ohio State, and he's not accomplishing any of them right now. They're not. And another thing too.
Why does everybody think Ohio State doesn't have high expectations?
I don't know, but you notice how Ryan Day's 2 best seasons with Ohio State were his first 2, when he was still kind of playing with Urban Meyer's players. And now, as he's moved on, he's got plenty of talent on the offensive side of the ball. The secondary hasn't gotten better. How many corners and defensive backs was Ohio State turning into the NFL under Urban? Where are those guys right now?
And look, and to be fair, I am not saying that this is a reasonable judge.
No, I don't think it's reasonable at all. I just think it's reality.
I am not at all trying to say that is a reasonable reaction to these results.
Correct.
I am just judging based on, I don't know, the history of former Ohio State coaches when they can't beat Michigan, even though they're still fielding very successful teams otherwise, but they can't beat Michigan. And Ryan Day has a losing record to Michigan.
Like John Cooper.
Correct.
Who got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. What, 14 seasons?
Yes, but when were those seasons?
88 to 2000.
And how much money was on the line back then?
I'm guessing that Ohio State was paying their guy in the same percentile that they are now, but clearly more now.
Yeah, the Big Ten wasn't making $1 billion a year. That the playoff wasn't paying them even more at that point.
Let's not forget though, Ohio State did not fire John Cooper after he went 11-1 and lost to Michigan, or after he went 11-1 or 10-3 and lost to Michigan again. It was 6-6 and 8-4 that got him out.
Mm-hmm. But I'm telling you, if they don't beat Michigan next year and they don't win the Big Ten, I'm not saying I think it should happen. I'm saying
it's
don't
like
be surprised when it does.
Listen, this is bad. I should not be bringing all this college basketball nonsense to this podcast, but it's like the John Calipari Kentucky conundrum. You have a horrible season, but then you lose to St. Peter's and you come into the next year and it's like, it's not a hot seat, but it is a don't mess up kind of year. And that's kind of, it's like not fair. You are one of the best coaches in the game. But
during the postgame show on Fox, outside of Ohio Stadium, is Urban Meyer sitting on set breaking down the game. Ohio State fans are behind him chanting, "Bring back Urban." That's just the way things are. They're not beating Michigan. They don't want you there.
We'll see. Lots to get to. Don't lose. How about this? Don't get beat also by that margin, and don't get beat in that way. Because this is 2 years in a row that Michigan has put up 40 plus and beat you in a game that Ohio State, by the end of it, was not competitive.
Mm-hmm. Which
those are embarrassing losses.
By the way, like we're talking a lot about Ohio State, obviously, but let's talk about Michigan now, because they beat Ohio State by 22. How much did they beat Penn State by? Like 24? Yeah, 24. So their 2 primary competitors in the Big Ten East, they beat by 22 and 24 points. They beat Michigan State by 22 points. Maryland is the team in the East that gave Michigan the biggest challenge. next year when it comes to our preseason predictions for the Big Ten East, we better not be picking Ohio State. I'm sure we will be.
I don't think we would be. Like, even if Ohio State had won this year, look what Ohio State loses off this team, right? I mean, I kind of feel like this was Ohio State's year to really do something, because it was very clear Michigan had a ton coming back for 23, as does Penn State, to be honest.
And that's another aspect to the Ryan Day thing, because there are a lot of questions about 2023. Like, we know Marvin Harrison's going to come back because the world is not just or fair, and he has to. But, like, we don't know who the quarterback's going to be yet. Is he on the roster? Is he going to come via the portal? I don't know. And you're looking at a Michigan team where if J.J. McCarthy, I don't know, he didn't take a leap today, but if that's a sign of things to at least possibly come, and if Drew Allar is a guy that kind of steps into a bigger role in the Penn State offense next year, we don't know that Ohio State's going to have the best QB in the division.
Right. Recruiting wise, something to consider here. They do have Raiola coming in, and Raiola early on appears to be like one of those dudes who's just like far and away like we had Caleb Williams number 1, right? That's in the 2024 class. I don't care if they lose to Michigan next year. Unless they just completely fall apart, they're not firing Ryan Day. We should show about that.
Oh, look,
I think it would take like a losing record for them to fire Ryan Day after next year.
There needs to be a difference between me making a prediction that Ryan Day is going to get fired by X date to me being able to bring out the palpable negative reaction from Ohio State fans who are furious with Ryan Day in this moment, and be able to say, okay, I think this will linger. What are the impacts of that lingering? That is what I want to vocalize, because I believe that the passion and the expectations within the Ohio State program don't always match, in the same way that when people outside of Michigan were saying, like, why doesn't Michigan move on from Jim Harbaugh? And I was telling you, I was like, you don't get Michigan football then, because all Michigan football cares about is running a scandal-free program with good graduation rates and keeping the donations up and keeping everybody happy within the family. And as long as you're doing what you need to do and winning your home games, you're going to be good. And they stuck with Jim Harbaugh, and it has paid off. But if everybody had reacted to the outside as he was losing game after game after game to Ohio State, then they would have gotten rid of Jim Harbaugh. If every single time a former Michigan football player had been like, we got to get Jim Harbaugh out of here just because they lost to Michigan State, then they wouldn't be in the college football playoff for 2 years in a row. So I don't know. I mean, Chip in Raleigh, North Carolina is not going to be able to speak to this uniquely. My grandmother was a professor at Ohio State, but that's not my unique insight into this. But
you got an in.
Yeah, but like I think that it is important with us in this conversation to make sure that we let all the different perspectives of this be shown. And Tom and I were definitely seeing within our own little workspace as like, but you guys don't get it, do you? You guys don't understand. Ohio State, they want this.
It's the SEC of the Big Ten.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, congratulations to Michigan. I didn't mean to totally hijack this with the Ryan Day thing, but Michigan is set again. They are going to play Purdue in the Big Ten championship game. I expect they will win that game. And I expect that they will enter the college football playoff as either the number 1 or number 2 seed in the college football playoff and have a chance to go compete for a national championship.
They're in regardless, right?
I think so.
I think so.
Yeah.
Unless they get absolutely embarrassed next week.
Next week's SEC, Big Ten, and maybe even Pac-12 at this point. Losers still go.
Whoa!
I don't know if USC will get that same kind of credit with 2 losses.
USC has a loss and TCU has 0 losses.
Oh, excuse me, TCU, not USC.
Okay, yeah.
TCU, I think, is now in the playoff, even if it loses, unless it gets just totally walked.
Right. I think our 3 12-0 teams should
be.
Yeah.
I'm not ready to say TCU is guaranteed yet.
Yeah.
Not saying it's my opinion of what should happen. I'm just saying I'm not ready to say it's guaranteed.
Okay.
Because, Buck, we know what CFP wants. They want ratings. They don't want the best teams or most deserving teams in there.
True. I mean, like for Harbaugh to have the recruiting class take a hit, lose both coordinators, lose a bunch of really good guys off that team last year.
Interview for the Vikings.
Right.
On
exactly.
National Signing Day.
And run it back is just damn impressive. And if they get the passing game going, right, and I mean like more than just 1 week and more than just a couple, wide open bombs, if they're able to throw the football better, like early in this game is what McCarthy has looked like for the last month.
Mm-hmm.
Late, overthrowing stuff, having trouble coming off the first read, all that kind of stuff going on. If they're able to get him better, if he can play to his potential, that's a really scary team. Like if they can do that over the next month as they get ready for the playoff, then they could go win this thing, right? This Georgia team is a damn good team. It's not exactly what they were last year when they stomped Michigan. So I'm really excited to see what they can do with the month here because they're clearly really well coached and they have great player development.
Deserving amount of time, a big chunk of it given to this game that featured the two of the top three teams in the entire country.